Of all the children, she was the nearest to Demelza in natural ebullience, though sometimes there was a harshness about her that her mother had never shown, such as walking up to the mine with Ross and meeting him on his way home, such as picking about in her beloved garden, where not much stirred yet, but where the soil was too sandy ever to become sticky or to turn to mud, such as supervising the thrashing and the winnowing of the oats, such as dosing her black pony, Hollyhock, with an inflammation drench of her own making for a severe cough and cold, such as visiting Caroline Ennis, who refused resolutely to go out of doors when it was raining, and taking tea with her and discussing life in general. It was a good time with Ross newly home and throwing himself into affairs of the mines and the farm with renewed interest. It would have been a better time without one ugly fact and one momentous decision that hung over her, creating tension in her, especially when waking in the dark of the dawn, listening to the drip of the rain and to Ross's steady breathing beside her. Before he left London, Ross had seen the Prime Minister, and they had discussed the possibility of his being sent to Paris as a liaison officer at the British Embassy, with particular regard to the disposition and sentiment of the French armed forces. The matter had been left in abeyance, Lord Liverpool awaiting events before deciding to send him, Ross hesitating whether he was willing to be sent. It had been agreed between them that they should make contact again sometime in late February. Since then, much had happened. America and England had made peace, and the Duke of Wellington would be likely to remain in Paris as British ambassador, however unpopular he had made himself, or events had made him, in that city. The likelihood of Captain Poldark being persona grata with the Duke was fairly remote, for the Duke had objected to his sudden appearance as an observer in Portugal before the Battle of Busaco. The word spy had not actually been mentioned, but the Duke had written to his brother, the Foreign Secretary, complaining of the presence of a detached observer who had been sent, he felt, by members of the cabinet unfriendly to him. It was not known whether Wellington had ever read Poldark's admirable and admiring account of the Duke's dispositions when he returned to England, but Ross himself certainly had no intention of going on any mission where he would be greeted with suspicion rather than cooperation. So the prospect of a summons to London and then to Paris had receded as the new year broke, and so had receded the dawn apprehensions. But here was this strange man, formally dressed, clattering across the bridge. In a moment he would have dismounted and, dripping with rain, would be appearing at their front door. You didn't have to fret about the house looking shabby or unkempt in such weather, provided the people who called to see you knew you and understood the circumstances of a small manor house that was also a working farm. With strangers, it was different. In the 4 minutes since she had spotted him, Demelza had flown about, gathering up boots and stockings and coats and kerchiefs and scarves, shoveling them into convenient cupboards, had shaken hearth rugs and carpet mats, and cleared the table in the parlour by converting the cloth which covered it into a handy hold-all for everything unnecessary and untidy, and stuffed it into yet another cupboard containing Ross's mining books. By this time, the faithful Jane Gimlet had appeared at the door of the parlour.
"If you please, ma'am, there's a gentleman come to see Captain Poldark. Name of Phillips. Mr. Phillips."
"Ask him in, will you? And send someone to fetch Captain Poldark. I believe he's still at Grace." In fact, Ross was not at Wheel Grace, though he had been. Yesterday he had ridden to Red Ruth shopping with Matthew Mark Martin and Cal Travail. They could have done it all without him, but like Demelza, he had a sense of impermanence, of uncertainty, of half-waiting, a feeling that time was not indefinite, and it induced him to take a more personal part in the farm as well as in the mine. Among other things, they had come back with 300 weight of king potatoes to replenish their dwindling stores, a bag of guano, and a bag of nitrate of soda. This last was for a field of early cabbages, and he stopped now to talk to the two men, Ern Lobb and Cephas Billing, who were scattering it and raking it in. He saw John Gimlet leave the house and make for Wheel Grace, then catch sight of him and veer over in his direction.